Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, I promise to be very thrilling because we'll take a review at Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubuis's encounter. That's in boxing. I'm coming across from tennis. The latest ranking has been released, and of course, some people believe that there's been there are a lot of movements on the table there. And across in football, there is a new champion in Africa. Zamalek FC has beaten the CAF Champions League winners as the Super Cup winner for 2024. Details of this and many more will be yours on this edition of Sports Extraordinary. All you need to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy your weekend of sports here on Atlantic Television Network. Extraordinary weekend edition here on Atlantic Television Network. This weekend, Kingsley Emmanuel is here, and together we'll bring you up to speed with the latest happening around the world of sports. First, we'll start from boxing, where about a week ago, Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubuis were before nearly 100,000 capacity Wembley Stadium, and at the end of hostilities in the fifth round, the referee had to stop the game because of the power punch of Daniel Dubuis over Anthony Joshua. Dubuis beating Anthony Joshua to retain his International Boxing Federation heavyweight title and stopping Anthony Joshua from becoming a three-time heavyweight champion. That has been settled right now, and the issue here is Kingsley. The pause of that fight is in review. A lot of people believe that a lot of money has gone down between these two fighters. Both of them British, I must say, and it's been heavy sum attached to this fight, especially with the news making the round that there will be a rematch between these two come February next year.
Yes, of course, was a very big one, and the one that came with a very huge surprise. Everyone didn't expect, the way the result actually panned out. Everyone was giving it to Anthony Joshua, but Daniel Dubois, of course, and he came up with that surprise, didn't give Joshua that space. He went all out, of course, for Anthony Joshua, and he was able to get him in the fifth round of this particular bout. I think for me it was a very huge one, but at the end of the day, despite the defeat, Joshua, of course, went home with a very huge amount of money.
More money than Daniel Dubois?
Daniel Dubois. Just for showing up, we heard he went home with about £6 million, just showing up, for this fight. And of course, the total money he actually grabbed out, despite the defeat, was £25 million, for him. Of course, you will see Joshua has that influence. He has that fans appeal. And that's why, of course, he was able to command that high level of crowd. We're about the Wembley Stadium, 96,000. We heard it was filled, to capacity on very day. And of course, you will see it was at least due to the influence of Anthony Joshua. That's why, of course, those fans turn up, for that particular bout. For Daniel Dubois, yes, didn't take much. I think it took about £10 million, back home. I think that, of course, you will say a huge one, for the man. Looking at the fact that yes, despite the fact that he's also a British, but Anthony Joshua has that much influence, and that's why, of course, Joshua went home with that huge amount of money. And for me, I think at this point, Joshua should look forward, should look beyond the money, because we understand the money has always been in his favor. He has to claim the glory and not, for the money. Yes, we understand he wants to fight for the glory, but at this point in time, he should step up his game if he still wants to, continue fighting.
Anthony Joshua needs to step up his game if he needs to continue fighting. He's now missed an opportunity of coming face-to-face with Alexander Usyk, of course, clearly the World Boxing Council heavyweight champion. And that's not looking very good, especially for his boxing fans around Nigeria here, who believe so much that Anthony Joshua was going to take out Daniel Dubois in that fight and bringing him closer to the fight against Alexander Usyk. But now that fight cannot take place anymore. First, I'm very sure, Kingsley, you saw it with the winning of Anthony Joshua and defending his International Boxing Federation heavyweight title. It looks now clear that Daniel Dubois can have a shot at the World Boxing Council heavyweight champion, Alexander Usyk.
Definitely, he can, but I think we have to wait till December, I think 21st, when Usyk will definitely get into the ring against Tyson Fury for a rematch as well, after beating him, of course, in the first match. So we'll have to look forward to see how that one will pan out. But as it stands now, I think Dubois is a big shot at this point in time. He's in that position of selecting which of the bouts is going to face. We're actually getting the report that Joshua, of course, is seeking for a rematch, against Daniel Dubois, but that has not been sealed yet. So I think Dubois, as it stands now, has that opportunity of deciding which of the bouts, of course, is going to take. Either he's going to go back, he's going to take a rematch against Anthony Joshua, or maybe he's going to look forward to the winner between Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk. And I think this week the man came out to say that he's going to go for the big check. Whichever offer him more money, that's the fight, of course, he's going to go for. And I think for me, he's in that position now. Looking at that performance against Anthony Joshua, you would say Daniel Dubois is in that position of challenging anybody. So let's just see what comes up for the man, getting his IBF, title at this point in time. I think the man is now one of the boxers we can look up to see to challenge the very best at this point. But we'll keep our fingers crossed and see if he's going to maybe get a rematch against Anthony Joshua, or maybe face Alexander Usyk, who has been very, very fantastic for some time now.
Daniel Dubois, the new kid on the block on heavyweight boxing right now in the world, looking at good to challenge the World Boxing Council heavyweight champion, of course, of the world, talking about Alexander Usyk. But first, let's see what happens in December. Usyk is up against Tyson Fury. This will be the third time both of them will be meeting, and thereafter we'll know. But clearly, right now, the two heavyweight belts are with Alexander Usyk, World Boxing Association, and the World Boxing Council heavyweight belt. The International Boxing Federation belt could be tempting, but what do you think, Kingsley? You think he wants to take all three belts to himself?
Of course, it's possible if he can, if he has the energy, if he has the strength and has the mind to face maybe Alexander Usyk in this one. I think he can. Take a look at his attitude in terms of attacking Anthony Joshua. You tell that Daniel Dubois has that champion mentality. He didn't give Joshua freaking space. Even from the first round of that particular bout, he started attacking Joshua, didn't even allow Joshua to settle, of course, in the ring. And that's why those punches he gave Joshua, and the last one he gave him in the fifth round, was able to take Anthony Joshua down. So I think for me, Daniel Dubois has developed that mentality of a champion and has put up his mindset not to be afraid of anybody. And that's for me, I think with that mindset, he can go into the ring with anybody, call it Tyson Fury, call it Alexander Usyk, and I think he still stands a very good ground, against this boxer. So if he can go for the three belts, I think for me, going for the three belts is something possible. Taking a look at the momentum of Daniel Dubois, what he just have to do now is to go back to training, continue to, of course, add more tactics, of course, to what he has already. And I think for me, Usyk is beatable. Yes, if you have your tactics right, you can beat him. Of course, Tyson Fury is beatable. He was actually being defeated by Alexander Usyk as well. So for me, I don't see any of these boxers to be a very strong opponent at this point in time for Daniel Dubois. Though against these boxers, he might be the underdogs. He'd be the underdog fighter, but I think he still has that prowess, to still put up that upset. We saw what he did against Anthony Joshua. Who says he can't replicate that against the likes of Usyk or maybe Tyson Fury?
Money is the name of the game, and right now Anthony Joshua had earned more money than Daniel Dubois that beat him in the fifth round of the International Boxing Federation title belt fight. Well, let's hope that it will determine too where and Daniel Debu will go? Will it be over Alexander Furyk or another one against Anthony Joshua? That will be, we are told that February looks like a possible date between these two fighters. Now let's continue to make impact on the program, and let's go to tennis and Kingsley. The Grand Slam of the year is all done and dusted. We have just few WTA and ATP tournaments left for this year 2025. But the latest FIFA tennis ranking has just been released, and we've seen the two top players, tennis players maintain their number one status. Talking about Yannick Sinner from Italy as the number one male tennis player as we speak, and of course Iga Swiatek as the number one female player. But as if the ranking position is not being looked at much, what we are seeing is WADA's position about the world number one in tennis, Yannick Sinner. Nobody's talking about whether he's world number one. What we are saying now, or what most people are talking about now, is the appeal by WADA saying that he has to be sanctioned. He cannot be set free the way it was done before the end of the last Grand Slam of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think WADA, they're doing their job at this point in time. They have to weigh in. Because you remember the time that
WADA is the world doping body,
yes,
responsible for regulating doping.
They are doing their job at this point. Remember when Yannick Sinner was given that exemption? Everybody was not happy with that decision. Even some tennis players were not too good with that decision, because in the past we've seen tennis players being guilty of taking prohibited substance, and at the end of the day they are being punished. Is it that they are being banned for a year or they are banned for months? And this time around, Yannick Sinner actually tested positive twice for a prohibited substance, and it was given as an exemption.
No, the exemption came the way of Yannick Sinner, because Electric Integrity Unit are of the opinion that he didn't on his own take the steroid or the banned substance, that it was his physio that administered that without his knowledge, and so he was not punished. But a lot of people believe that if it wasn't Yannick Sinner, world number one, maybe some others we've seen in the past would have been punished, especially given that it was twice he tested positive to this low level of substance.
Yes, and I think for me, if you take a look at it, it's really dicey at the moment. If he should be banned, like WADA has said, that he should be given at least a year or 2 years ban. But we have to take a look at it, taking a look at the man's claim.
No, I think the issue here is, the way he was pardoned, and allowed to be part of the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
And again, of course, it's no longer history that he won.
Yeah, he won.
He could have lost it, if he didn't take part in that, and maybe some other person would have gotten it.
Yeah.
If you're aware that even Novak Djokovic and other celebrated tennis players are not too happy about the way he was given
that exemption.
That exemption.
And for me, I think at this point in time, it's really a critical one. We should just look forward to see how it is. But the man has come up with a claim and said that it was his physio that, of course, applied that stuff, of course, on him. And that's why the thing entered into his system. And at the end of the day, he was actually being punished financially, and some points, of course, were deducted from him. But whether still not okay with that particular, punishment, they still want the man, of course, to go into severe punishment, at least a year ban or probably 2 at this point in time. So we'll just see what comes up. We hear the case is now in the court of arbitration for sport at this point in time. So it's actually a serious matter. And I think Yannick Sinner, of course, will see how to make sure he gets himself, right in terms of, trying to see how to defend himself at this point in time, or else he might be given that 1 or 2 year ban from what we're seeing from WADA at this point in time. And if that happens, it means all of his efforts will be, taken down, and we'll see other players, of course, coming up to top him at this point in time. So it's really a dicey situation for Yannick Sinner. Nobody's talking about his number one status, or if he's going to finish the season being the world number one once again. It's now about the issue of doping at this point in time, and for me, it's not good for the image of the man. We saw him competing in the U.S. Open and had a very fantastic performance, but people are still now not sure if he's competing clean, and that's why, of course, whether they're still pushing to see what to get to the root, of for the matter. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and see how Yannick Sinner, of course, will escape this one.
Well, let's continue with the ranking itself now. ranking has just been released, and like I said, Yannick Sinner remains as world #1. Are you surprised at the points so far?
No, not really surprised in terms of world #1 for Yannick Sinner. Of course, we saw what he did in the first Grand Slam of the year, the Australian Open. Had a little bit of a rigorous moment in between the season, but was able to come back even after the doping issue. Was able to come back and won the U.S. Open, in a very, very, very fantastic, fashion down there. For me, was a very impressive one, of course, we've seen from him, and I think with you take a look at his level of performance, he merits, that particular point. The only surprise for me was seeing Alexander Zverev, in second position. Zverev hasn't won any title this year, but I think his consistency is the reason why he was able to get down to that #2 position, especially in the last Grand Slam, which was the U.S. Open. He went all the way to the 4th round, and the likes of Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic couldn't even get through. I think Djokovic was ousted out in the 2nd round, while Alcaraz was ousted out in the 3rd round. So that also had a drop, in their points, and that's why we saw Alexander Zverev stepping up. Daniil Medvedev, the man, of course, in the #5 position. I think, for me, I expect a lot from Daniil Medvedev. He's one player I believe should be giving the likes of Djokovic, Alcaraz, even Yannick Sinner a run for their money. But the man has not really stepped up his game, that much. You see him getting to some Grand Slam final, and at the end of the day, he would just lose in a way that you don't even expect. So for me, I take a look at the top 5. I think the guys says they merit that particular position based on their consistency and their performance this year.
Let's look at the females. Any surprise? Iga Swiatek still world #1, though losing out at the quarterfinal stage of the U.S. Open.
Yes, Iga Swiatek, I think for me, she's tried her best this time around, at least to maintain, her position as that world #1. But we understand that Aryna Sabalenka is gradually closing in, and I think if she didn't opt out from some tournament this year, talking about Aryna Sabalenka, she would have gotten very close, to Iga Swiatek. But for me, I think it's a good one, seeing Iga Swiatek at least still maintaining that top spot. We hope that she's going to improve, because this year she didn't put up that performance we saw last season, and that's to say she dropped a little bit in terms of her performance. Some of the Grand Slam, of course, we expected her to put up a very impressive show. She faltered. We hope that she's going to improve on that. For Aryna Sabalenka, I think for me, it's just for her to take her game serious. She's a serious tennis player, no doubt. But when it matters most at some points, you see her just opt out from tournaments. You see her not really giving sometimes her best in some Grand Slams. So for me, was a very good one from what we're seeing, in the WTA, and we expect, of course, other players, to step up. Jessica Pegula getting down to the #10 position. We saw what she did in the U.S. Open, and that's why, of course, she was able to gather that much points to get to the #3 position. But so surprised that the likes of Ons Jabeur no longer in the top 10 at this point in time. It's a very disappointing one for me. I expected Ons Jabeur, taking a look at what happened to her last season, where she almost got a Grand Slam for herself. I expected her to step up her game, but this season looks to be one of her worst seasons. She didn't even really get down to the, let's say, finals of any of the Grand Slam. And that, for me, very poor performance from a lady who's looking forward to, get her first Grand Slam. Don't forget she's aging, and if she doesn't get it, while she's young, it might be difficult for her to get it when she's old. So I really expected her to get now down, maybe at least top 10. Coco Gauff was one player I expected at least to be in the top 5, but she was dropped down to #6 position. And she didn't do well in the just concluded U.S. Open. And after that U.S. Open, she had to part ways, of course, with her coach due to her poor performance. I think for me, was another player I expected, of course, to put up a very impressive performance. But we take a look at the top 10. I think it's really, really, fantastic.
Top 10 in the female ranking right now in the world of tennis. Iga Swiatek #1, Aryna Sabalenka #2, Jessica Pegula #3, and I'm very sure these three will put up very strong. Elena Rybakina in the 4th place position, Jasmine Poloni in 5th, 6th is Coco Gauff, and Zheng Qing from China is 7th, 8th place is Emma Navarro, while Dana Collins from the United States of America is 9th place. Barbara Churukova from the Czech Republic is making the 10th place position. Something interesting happening here. We understand Garcia is off. The former world #4, Caroline Garcia, will not play again this season. What's the issue?
Of course, she said she's been receiving a lot of criticism, a lot of attack based on her performance. That she's tired of people criticizing her based on how she performed. That she does not want to be rated based on her past performance or where she's been ranked in tennis. That she just wants to go and calm her head down and try to see how she can put her mental state in order. You understand, when players are being heavily criticized due to poor performance, and all of that, they can actually get so worried and all of that. So she's saying that she does not want to be measured or have to be put up there based on how she performed on the court. So she says she just wants to go back and see how to put herself, in order before she comes back, next year. She's currently ranked 36 now in the WTA. And for me, Caroline Garcia, former, you see, a lady that has done so well, when it has to do with tennis previously, should be able, of course, to put up a very impressive performance. And if she's even complaining she's ranked 36, what would the likes of Emma Raducanu be doing? Right? Is that currently ranked 70th, and the rest of them. So for me, I think whatever decisions is taken is best known to her. We'll hope to see her come back strongly come next season.
Well, that will be it for this half of the show. Definitely be back in a short while after this break when we'll bring you some more exciting stories from the world of sports this weekend. Austin Eguavoen is back into the news. He's been given the chance to handle the Super Eagles' next 2 games by the Nigerian Football Federation. Don't forget, he's the technical committee's executive, a technical director of the Nigerian Football Federation, and he's seen over 2 games, and I think the Nigerian Football Federation are satisfied with him, and so they want him to continue in his capacity as the head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. We'll come to that in a short while. And again, across in Europe, this weekend, Atletico Madrid will be up against Real Madrid. That, of course, is a super clash in the La Liga. We'll review that as well. So this and many more will be yours when we return from the break. Stay with us. Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network, and Kingsley Manuel is still here with me. Kingsley, this week, in the course of the week, we saw the Nigerian Football Federation approve of the supervision of the match of the Super Eagles qualifying games against Libya. 2 games, both legs, one in Nigeria and one in Libya, against charging the technical director of the association, Austin Guavon, to supervise those games as head coach. You remember he was there, a couple of times as head coach, but this time around, after prosecuting 2 games, he's now been charged with yet another 2, pending when there will be employment of a substantive head coach for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. 58-year Austin Guavon, we have seen him do it before. You can continue with what he's done before?
I think he can. When you take a look at what he did in the game against Benin Republic, Rwanda as well, you see Guavon has what it takes to lead the Super Eagles of Nigeria, to, of course, qualify for the 2025 African Cup of Nations in Morocco. And I think the big task ahead here is the World Cup qualifiers. We don't know if he's going to be the man, of course, in charge. But for what he has been able to do already, I think everyone has that high level of confidence that Guavon can help the Super Eagles of Nigeria qualify for the 2025 African Cup of Nations. The next game is against Libya, and I think Libya, for me, should be an easy pass for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. When you talk about player to player, it definitely will give it down to the Super Eagles of having better players, down the Libyan side. So for me, I think Guavon, for me, I will give him that, go ahead, and just like the NFF they've done to manage the team. Take a look at what he did in the AFCON in Cameroon. We had a very impressive group stage performance down to the round of 16, where, of course, the Super Eagles were beaten by Tunisia. Came back to the World Cup qualifiers in Qatar, and Ghana, of course, have to put up that performance to beat the Super Eagles of Nigeria. But I think from now up to this moment, Austin Guavon has learned a lot. I believe he has gone for a refresher course to also upgrade his knowledge when it has to do with his coaching ability and all of that. So for me, I think it's good of a thing that the NFF are giving him the go-ahead. When you take a look at the pattern of football the Super Eagles played against Benin Republic, they had a very good pattern of play. They played with sense of purpose. From the back, from the defense down to the midfield and the attack, we saw that synergy, not the kind of football we saw Yesu Pesero, probably Feni the Judge, actually putting up a highly defensive, pattern of play. But for that of Guavon, we're seeing this ball, a little bit of pressing and as well a little bit of, possession and attacking. So for me, if you take a look at it with this pattern of play, you definitely want to, of course, tell him to go ahead with the job. And I think for me, it's a good decision from the NFF. Nigerian
Football Federation giving the supervision of the Super Eagles' next 2 games to Austin Guavon in interim capacity as head coach of the squad. Austin Guavon, no doubt, has done it before. We hope he will do it again, ensuring that Nigeria qualifies for the World Cup and the African Cup of Nations as well. He's not going to do it alone. Of course, he's still going to do Daniel Dede, Ogumo Dede, and of course, what is his name now? Fidelis Ilichugu, Rangers coach. Both of them assisting him as assistant coaches of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. The Nigerian Football Federation, in the course of the week as well, did appoint Madugu as the head coach of the Super Falcons of Nigeria. You are aware that Waldorf, that supervised the team a few months ago, has left the team to attend to his sick wife, and now the Super Falcons, the female football team of Nigeria, is now going to be supervised by a man who assisted him in the past. Talking about Madugu. Madugu is capable of taking the Super Falcons to the next level.
I can't really say yes, but the little time he had with the Super Falcons when Randy Wardrum had a little bit of had a little issue with the NFF, I think he was able to see some games through. I think the game against Cameroon down there, I think the WAFCON qualifiers, we saw him, he was able to put up a very impressive performance with the girls. So for me, if he's going to bring back that glory days of the Super Falcons, I'm not really sure of Justin Madugu, except maybe he has gone to improve, himself, as a coach, and then we'll see what, of course, he'll be able to bring to the table for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. Talking about Round the Wardrum and the Super Falcons before his departure, I think Wardrum, of course, didn't hit the nail on the head, or seeing the Super Falcons not being that Super Falcons we used to know. Take a look at the last WAFCON, how they struggled. They finished third. Yes, we had an impressive performance at the World Cup where we were able to challenge, England, and the rest of them. But we have to make sure we've showed that tenacity, that, high spirit at every point in time. I didn't really see that from Coach Randy Wardrum. I think for me, the NFF, despite the fact that Justin Madugu is on ground, maybe they should also tilt their eyes and see if they can maybe get another coach, or maybe give the job, allow Justin Madugu to go ahead and see if he has the ability to be able to manage it. It takes a lot, to manage a team like the Super Falcons of Nigeria, and that particular team need an experienced manager. We'll just see if Justin Madugu will be able to carry on with this one.
Justin Madugu, the new head coach of the Super Falcons of Nigeria, complimenting as well in terms of capacity. We'll see him get the job done. He's been with the team, so he should know what to do. So, in the course of the week, we saw Austin Egwavon appointed as head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria in interim capacity, and Justin as well in just about the same capacity, pending the appointment of coaches to hold these two sides of the national team of Nigeria. Still looking at football for you this weekend on Sports Extraordinary here. Kingsley, CAF Champions League winner Ahly of Egypt, and another Egyptian side, Zamalek Football Club of Egypt as well, were in Saudi Arabia in the course of the week to see which of them will leave the Super Cup for 2024 football season here in Africa. And at the end of hostilities, it went into penalty shootout, and it turned out that the CAF Confederation winners, Zamalek, beat Ahly, the CAF Champions League winners, by 4-3. Will you say Zamalek is the best football club side right now on the continent of Africa, having beaten the champions in the CAF Champions League?
I have to say, Mr. Siri, because when you take a look at it, Ahly has a better pedigree than Zamalek. Even when to do with the Champions League, even the Super Cup, they have a better record, than Zamalek. I think they've won the Super Cup.
We're talking about 2024.
Okay. You say 2024.
Yeah, if the pedigree, yes. Because if you look at it, you were talking about pedigree.
Yes.
If this cup, the Ahly has won the Super Cup in Africa 8 times,
yes,
and Zamalek is just won their 4th time. But for the year 2024, which club side is on the continent of Africa can be described as the best?
You give it to Zamalek, of course, because they are the Super Cup champion, and of course we understand the Super Cup champion, the winner of the CAF Champions League and the winner of the CAF Confederation Cup, that the one who played the Super Cup, and of course Ahly won the CAF Champions League last time, while Zamalek won the CAF Confederation Cup. Both teams coming from Egypt, and for me, if you want, of course, talk about this year, I think I'll give it to Zamalek from what they've been able to do, of course, continental-wise at this point in time. It was a very interesting, encounter. It ended 1-1 draw in a full time, and they went down to penalties. Zamalek were able to convert, all of their 4 penalties, while Ahly, of course, lost twice, in the penalty shootout. And at the end of the day, Zamalek, of course, were crowned champion. I think for me, it's a good one. At least let's the narrative change a bit. Ahali, they've dominated this competition for a very long time now. So, Zamalek putting up this impressive performance this time, it shows quality and it shows that huge statement of intent that they can also challenge, the very best in the continent.
Zamalek, the Africa's best team for 2024 because they've beaten the CAF Champions League winners, Ahali, by 4-3 after a 1-1 pulsating draw in Saudi Arabia in the course of the week. And let's quickly now maybe look at Europe a little bit. And talking about Europe, this weekend, Kingsley, the biggest fixture in Europe is the encounter in the La Liga between Atletico Madrid at the Wanda Metropolitano against Real Madrid. Real Madrid this season is undefeated. They lead on the they are second place, on the La Liga table for this season. But they are up against the third place team, Atletico Madrid. And if you know that this looks like El Clasico, of course that's what it is, both of them based in Madrid, but the rivalry is very huge. 39 matches played so far by Real Madrid and they have been unbeaten. The last time they were beaten was 2023, and it was at the same Metropolitano where Atletico Madrid beat them by 3-1. Do you see that happening again as Atletico Madrid as a team that can stop the 39 unbeaten run of Real Madrid?
It's a case of history seeking to repeat itself, this time around. And we'll see if that will come to reality as well this weekend. But I take a look at the form of both teams of recent, especially this season. We definitely want to give it up to Real Madrid. They've been fantastic.
Both of them have not lost any fixture this season.
Both of them, they've not lost any fixture this season. But I think Real Madrid, if it's a pattern of play, squad-wise, they're a better side heading into this particular Madrid derby, this time around. I think you take a look at Luis Vinicius Jr., the likes of Jude Bellingham, Chouameni, who just came back, of course, from injury.
Yeah, talking about players, for Real Madrid especially, like you mentioned. In this encounter this weekend, there will be no Kylian Mbappe. He scored like 5 goals already for his new team, Real Madrid. But he will be missing this El Clasico fixture between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid.
For me, I think there will be no cause for alarm. There will be no cause for alarm because even in the absence of the man talking about Kylian Mbappe, of course.
There's a return of Eduardo Camavinga. He's back to the squad, Real Madrid. Whether he will start this weekend, that I don't know, but he has returned from injury.
Yeah, he has returned from injury, and of course, that's give Carlo Ancelotti more options, to explore in this particular encounter. And I think for me, there's a good one at this point in time for Real Madrid heading to this particular. They were looking forward, of course, to seek revenge. Taking a look at what Atletico Madrid did to them last time was a surprising, of course, performance we saw. But you take a look at how star-studded Real Madrid, are at the moment. I think they want to go out, for this particular encounter. So it's going to be a very tight one. Diego Simeone, of course, is one man who is also ready for this one. Don't forget, Atletico Madrid, they've also beefed up their squad this time. They've gotten the likes of Alvarez, from Manchester City, and the man, of course, has been firing. Don't forget, they still have the likes of Anthony Griezmann, who is also a very, very fantastic player for them for some time now. So it promises to be an interesting clash, and we'll see, of course, who get this one at the end of the day. But if you ask me, I think I'll really give Real Madrid, the go-ahead in this one because of they are very much ready, and looking at the fact that they are star-studded, and with what Carlo Ancelotti is doing this time, Real Madrid, they might be looking very unbeatable this time, but it's going to be an interesting encounter against Atletico Madrid. We'll just see who gets it at this time.
Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid at the Wanda Metropolitano. That is the home ground of Atletico Madrid. It promises to be very tight. We mentioned it before. Last time Real Madrid lost the game was against the same Atletico Madrid, and that was about a year ago. Let's see what will happen this time around at the Wanda Metropolitano. Barcelona. Then number 3 is Atletico Madrid. 2 points separate these two sides. It's 19 and 17 points each in the league. Will Atletico Madrid turn to number 2 side right after this fixture?
Yeah, of course. Like I mentioned, anything can happen in this game. You can actually pinpoint where the pendulum, of course, will swing to at the end of the day, looking at how good both teams, of course, they've started this season. So it's really a dicey one. I think what will decide this encounter is going to be the tactics, from both managers. the formation that both managers are going to deploy in this one, I think will actually put up the difference in this one. So it's a very dicey one, and we look forward to see who will get this one at the end of the day. But like I mentioned, I see Real Madrid, of course, going through in this one, looking at how they are very much, ready for this particular encounter, squad-wise, and the rest of them. So for me, Real Madrid have an edge here, but anything can happen. Atletico Madrid might just come up with that surprise, just like we saw the last time. So let's just see how it goes. Very, very dicey. Whichever win today, of course, there will be a change in position when it has to do with the table. So, and both teams, of course, understand what this game means to them. So we'll see, of course, who will go through in this particular one.
Well, let's still stay in Europe, and coming from Europe, Switzerland, for FIFA headquarters, there's been a heavy ban placed on the goalkeeper of the Argentine national team, Lautaro Martinez. He's been banned for 2 games for what FIFA is describing as ungentlemanly conduct in 2 games, and in fact, they describe it as clearly an offensive behavior from the Aston Villa goalkeeper Lautaro Martinez. Of course, he committed this offensive behavior playing for his country, Argentina. Do you think FIFA is right? They are saying it was offensive of him to the way he celebrated with the cup, if you remember. And this time around too, he had an issue with a cameraman in the last fixture in the World Cup qualifier. I think that was against Chile. We know Lautaro Martinez. He's a very temperamental player.
Yeah.
But this time around, he's not escaping the hammer of FIFA.
Very temperamental. If you remember the last time Argentina won the World Cup in Qatar, we saw what, of course, he did, because we saw what he did with the golden glove that he gave to him. He actually placed it beside his groin. And for me, FIFA, of course, perceived that as an offensive behavior. Even when Argentina won the Copa America just recently, we saw the way he celebrated, of course, with the title, placing it close to his groin, as well. And this time, hitting the cameraman, I think, not a very good gesture for me. A renowned goalkeeper like him, and that's what FIFA, of course, they are taking it upon him, at least to give him that punishment. I think he's been banned for 2 matches. For me, he'll be able at least to take caution and put himself right, especially and control his emotion. Even when I know some of these things as a result of him being excited, the case of for him celebrating with his glove and the case of him celebrating with the Copa America, you tag it to maybe over excitement, but that of the cameraman, I think, is as a result of him not being able to control his emotion. But I think with this 2-match ban, he'll be able to, of course, realize himself and, of course, understand some of these things are not really that good, especially for people who are watching him and, of course, people who are also follow him, as role model. So, for me, not a very good gesture, and this ban, of course, is just to make him sit up and try to put up a very good behavior going forward.
Well, Martinez has to put up good behavior going forward because this time around he's not been spared by FIFA, and I'm sure after match ban he could get even more severe punishment if he continues to show offensive behavior, not just to himself, or to cameramen, but fellow players as well. In the way he celebrates, he has to really consider decency in celebration as well. Just one more story or so before we begin to wrap up the show. At this point in time, Kingsley, you look at it and you think that Cristiano Ronaldo will not be in the news, but again, he is back in the news. Cristiano Ronaldo in the news after scoring for his side in the 2-1 win over Al Wadal. We understand that his penalty goal against Al Wadal was his 70th for this club side since joining just about 2 years ago. The man just can't stop scoring, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yes, he can't just stop
70 goals.
Stop scoring 70 goals for him, at Al Nassr down there, and for me, a very impressive record. Every goal Ronaldo scores now is a record, for him, and for me, he's done so well, of course, for himself. 70 goals. For Al Nassr for just about 2 seasons. The man has been in sound.
The man is 39 years old. He can't stop scoring.
39 years old, can't stop scoring. And if you take a look at what he's done as well in terms of goal scoring for other teams, in Real Madrid he had about 450 goals, and of course also in Juventus had about 145 goals. For me, you take a look at all of these goals, make him one of the greatest when it has to do with goal scoring in the world of football, and for me, he has really done a lot for himself. We hope to see him, of course, get something huge. But the only problem now for him in Anasa is that he has not won a major trophy yet. So we look forward to see if he'll be able to get something for Anasa before he calls it quits in football.
Well, we have to wrap up the show, and talking about wrapping up the show reminds me of one of the fixtures this weekend in the Premier League in England. Nigerians follow the Premier League so well, so everything that happens in the Premier League is just quite a big story, I must tell you, because we've seen one of the fixtures, Newcastle playing against Manchester City. The match this weekend turned out to be one which, as Rasi is beginning to cause a lot of analysts to come to task with it. It ended 1-1 at the Newcastle home ground. Man City was playing away, and Man City scored first, and Newcastle found a way to equalize within the 90 minutes plus added time. And we could be saying that Newcastle is the first team this season to cause Manchester City to drop 2 points. 2 points dropped by Manchester City. What does it mean in the Premier League in England?
Yes, it actually means a whole lot, the table down there. We understand that Arsenal, of course, looking forward to, of course, get down there as well, on the table. So City dropping points, it means we might see someone else, another team, of course, topping the table, as it stands. So it's not a very good result, for Manchester City, having not been able, of course, to take up a win in the Champions League. We saw they had a draw as well, and now coming back to draw in the Premier League, not a very good one, for City. We thought they were going to, of course, go out to see how they can get all 3 points this time to keep that chase, because Arsenal, they are coming up in a very fantastic fashion, and the game for Arsenal this weekend might be an easy pass against Leicester City. It means there might be a change on who top the table this weekend in the Premier League.
Well, Arsenal chasing and Man City dropping points. A lot of people think because there's absence of Rodri, that's why Man City is beginning to drop points. They've dropped, 4 points now in the last 2 games, and we hope this will not determine their future. Well, time to wrap it up, Kingsley, and our sports extraordinaire for this weekend couldn't have been any other than Cristiano Ronaldo, one man who has scored at least 70 goals for 4 different football club sides, and he can't stop scoring. He's scoring and scoring.
Yeah, fantastic goal scorer Ronaldo is, and we look forward to see how many goals he will score before he calls it a quit in football. Very impressive one, and we'll see when he's going to call it. 39 years of age and still firing. I tell you, the man still has more to offer.
Cristiano Ronaldo is firing and having more to offer. Definitely, that's what we offer here. We have more to offer you next weekend. But for this weekend, we'd like to say enjoy it, and remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress here on the Atlantic Television Network.